than normal. So what is it with Joe Mixon? Why is Joe Mixon being sued? For those of y'all that have lived under a rock, Joe Mixon is being sued because he punched a girl and broke her jaw at a local Norman restaurant. And do I feel like it was a warranted lawsuit? I really don't think it's a warranted lawsuit, to be quite honest with you. This girl claimed about a month ago, she finally come out of the limelight, said she's not looking for publicity, she's not looking for glamour, she's not looking for notoriety. So she went to News OK, their website. They interviewed this young lady who was punched and her jaw broken by Joe Mixon. And that was throughout the whole article. She said, no, I don't want notoriety. I don't want to be famous. I don't want I don't want anything from this. I just want people to know that Joe Mixon is a beast and that what he did is wrong. Okay, what I've learned in life, and many of y'all will know this as well, is that there is always two sides to the story. What we've gotten is we've got her side of the story. We've yet to hear Joe Mixon's side of the story, other than the fact that Joe Mixon has said that yes, he did punch her. But the story that Joe Mixon has is that they were in this bar, that they were frequenting this bar. This young lady walks by. She bumps into him. She looks over at him and calls him a derogatory word for an African American and says, "Excuse me, you derogatory word." And then he looks at her and calls her dare I say, a faggot. Okay, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. He called her a faggot. She called her a homophobe, and some homophobic slurs allegedly, and she pushed Joe Mixon, and Joe Mixon went back after she called him the derogatory word for an African American. Again, he went back, he threw back and punched her. Here's what I see wrong to this story. What's wrong with this story? First off, if you're bumped into somebody, I've learned in my life to keep your mouth shut. If you're at a ball game, if you're walking through a mall or something, don't just bump into somebody, look at them and say excuse me, because you're asking for a fight right there. Just walk on by, head high. Don't worry about it. If they say something, let them say something, but continue to walk until they bring the fight to you. However, what she did was she egged him on. She egged him on by calling him a derogatory word more than once. A matter of fact, 2 or 3 times. Granted, he wasn't right for calling her the homophobic slurs as well. But if you've got if you've got the balls to talk trash to a man and to throw punches at a man, then you also should have the balls to be able to take a broken jaw. Okay? That's my 2 cents. My 2 cents is that there's 2 sides to this story, and I've read the reports. I've read the stories both on Mixon's side. I've read the lawsuit on Mixon's side and on this young lady's side. Both were in the wrong. Okay? She was drunk. She thought it would be smart to call an African American a certain derogatory word multiple times at that. And on top of that, pushed the guy, threw alcohol in his face, and did some other things that were just blatantly stupid. So, yes, if you've got the gonads to call a man derogatory words, you got the gonads to push and shove him, to slap him, then you should have the gonads to just sit back when he punches you in the jaw and your jaw is broken. That's that. So for this young lady to sit here and say, and News OK literally not 2 weeks ago in her report say, I am not in this for the glitz. I'm not in this for the glamour. I'm not in this because I want to be famous in OU's eyes. She's graduated. She's already gone. However, now that everything's said and done, she's talked to News OK. She feels like she wants a little bit of notoriety. She wants to throw Joe Mixon under the bus, albeit right or wrong, and then continue to roll over and put it in drive yet again. Is it warranted? Yes or no? None of it's warranted. Both of them were at the wrong place at the wrong time. She was stupid enough to call him a derogatory word, to slap him, to punch him, to push him, and then to whine and bicker and complain about the fact that he threw back and punched you and broke your jaw, and you want $75,000 plus you're suing for defamation of character. You're suing because, you lost, you weren't able to walk around the University of Oklahoma without people snickering and talking behind your back. But yet, 2 weeks ago, literally not 2 weeks ago, you were on News OK saying that you weren't doing this because you wanted to be famous or any of that other hooey. But a week later, you decide you want to file a lawsuit. Now tell me, is that just not asking to be famous, putting your name out there, whether it be right, whether it be wrong? Granted, I'm not saying that guys should punch girls. However, I do advocate guys punching girls when girls are egging a guy on. If a girl throws that first punch, if she's drunk and she throws that first punch, and you try walking away multiple times, but yet she throws more punches, do you still have that right to punch that woman? Yes. Do you still have a right to put her on the ground? Yes. Again, if you have the gonads to punch a man, then you should have the gonads to take it. Plain and simple as that. What other sports news do we have? Yes, Kelly, J.J. Watt, she wanted me to remind everybody that J.J. Watt had back surgery and may be out for the first few season games. However, I did read, if I'm not mistaken, online a letter that J.J. Watt made and thanking the fans for, being supportive of him. But he also did say that he was preparing to be back for that first regular season game. So we'll see about that. Back surgery is not something that's very easy to get over. Staying on the same lines of football while we're at it, how many of y'all heard about the Dallas Cowboys team bus and the fatal accident in Arizona? I believe it was northwestern Arizona on Sunday evening. No one in the bus was injured. However, the 4 people in the van that it hit were, I believe, all killed in the incident. However, none of the people in the Dallas Cowboys team bus were injured. Nobody for the team. It was only, I believe, a reporter, a writer, and a couple of other team people as well that were on the Dallas Cowboys bus heading to Arizona on their way to Oxnard for the Cowboys training camp while we're at it. Yes, for many of y'all that don't know, the Dallas Cowboys may have just lost another piece to their defense as Randy Gregory is out is out for, I believe, he's already out for 4 games, but that could be up to 10 games uh, because he failed yet another drug test and he's checked himself into a rehab facility. So you've got Gregory injured, or not injured, but on the suspended list. You've got 2 or 3 other Cowboys on the suspended list as well. So the Cowboys defense is not looking pretty. You know, they may have should have done the smart thing and signed Von Miller while they had the chance because Denver's got him now. I want to throw a feel good story into this. I want to throw a kicker. I want to get away from the bad news and head to add a little bit of a good shed some good news on the light in between the show of a Florida Gator player. I don't know if any of y'all read the headlines or not. A University of Florida football player actually assisted in stopping a rape that was happening behind a Gainesville restaurant the other night. Um, these are definitely stories I like to hear about. I don't like to hear that a young girl was potentially being raped, but I do like the fact that a football player was in the process of helping apprehend the person and stopping the person and rescuing the woman from harm being upon them. So that's always good news when you hear of good things that football players do, because most of the time, not only here at the Jimmy the K Sports Show with the Big Do, but also other sports avenues. ESPN's First Take. Fox Sports One. There are things. A lot of times it's all negative, and you really don't hear a lot of these feel good stories. We want to hear more of these. We want to hear more of these football players taking action and stepping up against wrong. And for this player to do that, that puts notoriety right there on the University of Florida's football team as they continue to shine and continue to show that they have all kinds of great players out there. The Big Do and I have been discussing the Big 12 expansion over the last 2 or 3 weeks, if I'm not mistaken. If you've been viewing us on Facebook Live or YouTube Live or Ustream, we haven't really done Ustream in about 3 weeks or so. I'm actually doing Ustream this week because YouTube Live is not recording but about 8 minutes of the show and then kicking us off. It's basically my internet connection, and AT&T, when I get back, will probably be thrown under the bus and ran over a few times, and they'll be given an earful because I'm not paying for the type of internet that I'm getting, and they're slowing down speeds as well. But if you've been following the Big Do and I over the last few weeks, we've talked about the Big 12 expansion. What teams could be in there. Right now, the two big teams, and I believe the Big Do went with BYU, and I believe it went with Houston as well. If he's viewing the show, he could definitely let me know either aspect of whether or not it was. But if I'm not mistaken, I believe he said BYU and Houston were his two favorites to land in the Big 12. And right now, all indications, according to coaches in the Big 12, is that you're going to end up with Houston and BYU because they are preferred for the expansion. If you're into college football, what team should be added to the Big 12 expansion? We've discussed Connecticut, we've discussed BYU, we've discussed Houston, University of Central Florida, Colorado State as well. last week, if I'm not mistaken, over the show, you can view us on Facebook Live and also through the website. But last week we discussed every one of the teams and which ones we felt had the best chance. Houston was our number one. Houston was the number one being, Texas basically dominates the Big 12 if you look at it. You got University of Texas, you have Texas Tech University, you have Baylor, you have TCU, you have now you're looking at possibly adding Houston. At one time you had Texas A&M in the Big 12 until they balked and complained about the whole fact that Texas was getting the Longhorn Network. But with the talks of the Big 12 expansion, what people do not understand now, and what Texas A&M fans are probably pooping their pants about right now, is if you take Houston and BYU and add them to the Big 12, you take Texas A&M and they left for the SEC. The new contract for expansion is that Texas loses the Longhorn Network. It does not. It is no longer the Longhorn Network, and it becomes the Big 12 Network instead. So if you're a Texas A&M fan, you're probably just crawling right now going, oh, great, we left. We left for the SEC, probably one of the toughest divisions in all of football a few years ago, because the fact that the Texas Longhorns got the Longhorn Network, and basically, all indications were, and Texas A&M blatantly said this after they left, it was mainly because of the Texas Longhorn Network. Well, now, for this expansion to happen for Houston and BYU, or for Houston and for Cincinnati, or for Houston and UCF, or Houston and Colorado State to join, Texas loses that Texas Longhorn Network, and that becomes the Big 12 Network. I understand that a lot of Aggie fans think that the Aggies are doing good. They're doing pretty good in the SEC. I'm not going to complain. When they moved to the SEC, I honestly thought they were going to fall flat in their face, and I was going to laugh about it. Honestly, Texas A&M is the only Texas team that I will root for ever in the state of Texas, ever. I don't root for Texas Tech, and I do not root for the University of Texas. However, Texas A&M made a huge mistake many, many years ago. So as long as they're playing OU, they're going to get rooted against. But, all due respect, Texas A&M has not fallen flat on their face. They've held up quite well in the SEC, and they continue to stand their ground in the SEC. Now, will they win the SEC anytime in the near future? Probably not. Not with the stout Alabama, not with the stout team like maybe Auburn. LSU's another one of those teams that's kind of pretty stout a lot of times. So, if need be, would it be possible, and the big dude brought this up on last week's show, and I'll bring this up on this week's show, would it be possible for us to see them add the University of Houston, BYU, and to say, hey, Baylor, you've given us so much. You've given us so much grief here of late. You've got so much negative against you. So we're going to take you out. We're going to add Colorado State instead. We're going to add University of Central Florida. We're going to maybe Cincinnati. However, it probably won't happen. You're probably going to see Baylor stay in and Baylor continue to nip at the heels. So, who's your favorite to land in the Big 12? Would you much rather see Houston? Houston, the Big Do and I have agreed on. BYU, I can agree on as well. However, I could see Colorado State joining. I could see a team like Central Florida joining. I could see a team like Cincinnati joining, Connecticut joining. But honestly, I really do think the best of the best would be BYU and the University of Houston to make it an elite Big 12 and to bring back a championship game yet again. So, that's that. With Major League Baseball in full swing and the trade deadline coming up next Monday, there is a lot of rumors going out there. A lot of rumors. Some rumors, and one rumor that I read was that, the Houston Astros take over and they trade for Chris Sale of the Chicago White Sox. But they have to give up Lance McCullers. They give up 4 other pieces in the deal. It's basically 5 for 1. Chris Sale. Lance McCullers is the major league ready pitcher that they get in return. But yet, the Astros give up 4 of their best prospects in all of baseball. Yes, and one of those names was just called up yesterday. Can anybody guess who that name is? Made his debut last night. I know I've got an Astros fan, so, laugh, give a thumbs up if you know who I'm talking about, because his name was in that 5-player trade deal for Chris Sale. Here's my favorite to land Chris Sale and why. All chatter is that the Boston Red Sox or the Texas Rangers are legitimately only 2 teams, along with maybe the Los Angeles Dodgers, that have a sure shot at Chris Sale. Somebody might ask why. Why do the Rangers have a good shot? Why do the Red Sox have a good shot? Why do the Dodgers have a good shot? Whereas, let's say, a team like the Houston Astros don't have such a good shot, or a team like, the Florida Marlins not have such a great shot, or even, the Cleveland Indians have such a great shot. The truth of the matter is, it all comes down to prospects. And a deal for Chris Sale. Chris Sale's got a pretty nice contract. He's got a pretty, dare I say, a very sexy contract for a pitcher who's controllable for the next 4 years. He's got a 4-year deal for about $40.5 million. So adding Chris Sale to the Texas Rangers rotation would make it very formidable. You'd have a top 3 of Chris Sale, of Darvish, Cole Hamels. Those 3 on their top game, the Texas Rangers end up with the best, do not get me wrong, the best pitching staff in all of baseball. You have Sale, you have Darvish, you have Cole Hamels. The Texas Rangers look for real. But what do the Rangers have to give up to get a player like Chris Sale of the Chicago White Sox? And would they want a player like Chris Sale of the Chicago White Sox after what he was suspended for in Chicago over the last few days for? For many of y'all that didn't know, Chris Sale was suspended for 5 games by the Chicago White Sox because he took a pair of scissors. Yes, you heard right, a pair of scissors to the throwback uniforms that they were supposed to wear one night. He decided, hey, I didn't like this. I'm going to take a pair of scissors to this and say, haha, there you have it. This is not the first run-in that he's had with ownership and leadership in the Chicago White Sox organization. With the Adam LaRoche deal, he balked and he BS'd at the fact that they threw Adam LaRoche under the bus. His son should get special treatment, be able to come to batting practice whenever he wants to. When Adam LaRoche left, Chris Sale was the first one there pointing fingers and griping and bullcrapping at the fact that ownership made Adam LaRoche leave, and he should be able to have his 14-year-old son there at batting practice whenever the heck he wants. Then, on top of that, he makes matters worse coming up 3 days ago where he says, hey, I don't want to wear these throwback uniforms, so he takes a pair of scissors to them and says, screw ownership. It's not about a business, it's about team. Chris Sale is this close to being traded. But the truth of the matter is, what team, if any, wants to trade for somebody who's so hot-headed that throwback uniforms make him take scissors to him because he doesn't like them and he's not going to wear them? Well, guess what? As a friend of mine used to say in high school, Chris Sale, this ain't Burger King. You can't have it your way. You're being paid by the Chicago White Sox for the time being. You're going to wear the uniforms that they tell you to wear. And if you don't like it, you can shut your mouth up. You can sit down. You can shut up. You can tell us that you demand a trade, and we will trade you for peanuts to whatever team that you want. Now, that we're discussing Chris Sale, what other team other than the Texas Rangers would want somebody like Chris Sale on there? The name Los Angeles Dodgers has been brought up. The fact that Clayton Kershaw is out and he's hurt would make for good baseball in Los Angeles. But basically, Los Angeles is basically out of any playoff chances right now. And more than likely, they're going to end up out of playoff chances, period, because the fact is that the poor Los Angeles Dodgers lost their best pitcher, Clayton Kershaw. So would they legitimately part with a major league player or two and 3 or 4 farm system players to get somebody in there that would be paired with Clayton Kershaw and probably wouldn't see the light of playoffs till next year? Probably not. The only 2 formidable teams that I can see in this whole situation trading for Chris Sale is that of the Texas Rangers and that of the Boston Red Sox. So here's my thoughts on who the Texas Rangers would have to give up to get a Chris Sale. First off, we're talking Jurickson Profar would be the headliner of the deal. Jurickson Profar, if he ain't in the deal, they ain't pulling the trigger. The Rangers have basically balked at the fact that they do not want to get rid of Profar. They're listening on Joey Gallo, but they don't want to get rid of Profar. However, any headline deal for Chris Sale is going to warrant a Jurickson Profar. It's going to warrant a Lewis Brinson. It's going to at least take 3 of your top pitching prospects in your farm system as well. The Boston Red Sox could possibly jump into the mix and trade for Sale, although John Farrell did say today that more than likely the Boston Red Sox are done shopping. Drew Pomeranz, who they acquired last week, who I wanted to mention on the show but failed to. He was acquired by the Boston Red Sox last week. He adds to a rotation that, when healthy, has David Price, Drew Pomeranz, and then you got three or four other guys in there that solid, healthy. They're a pretty solid, healthy, good team, and they'll be fighting for a playoff berth as well with the Baltimore Orioles. Big headline in baseball this week, the biggest headline in all of baseball. The Chicago Cubs just got basically a lot harder to beat. The New York Yankees took a deal from the Chicago Cubs in which they acquired Aroldis Chapman for the remainder of the season. It's basically a rental because Chapman is only signed through the end of this year. But the pieces that the New York Yankees get in exchange is shortstop prospect Gleyber Torres, right-hander Adam Warren, and minor league outfielders Billy McKinney and Rashad Crawford. Cubs not only were linked to Chapman, but were also linked to Miller for months. They never wavered on the fact that they were not going to exchange Carl Schwarber for anybody at all. He was not going anywhere. He's staying with the Chicago Cubs. So that's the biggest trade deadline deal for this week thus far, is the fact that the Chicago Cubs acquired Aroldis Chapman and have basically made themselves a formidable team to reckon with for the remainder of the baseball season. There are lots of deals going on out there. I mean, there's lots of chatter going on. You know, basically, if you think about it, the Texas Rangers baseball organization has been linked to almost every available player when it comes to trade rumors. But you have to realize that the Texas Rangers front office is not shy about pulling the trigger on deals. Last year, they pulled a trigger that landed them Cole Hamels, and basically that deal locked them into an AL West championship or AL West champs, and then ultimately the first round ALDS loss to the Toronto Blue Jays. What do I think the Texas Rangers need to do to better themselves for the remainder of the season? Number one, they need a trade for pitching, and John Daniels has basically stated that multiple times. I've discussed this with his front office several times this week, and John Daniels has said, representatives from his front office have said, blatantly they've said, that he's working diligently to try to get a deal done with any team that they see fit. But the teams have to match. The player has to match, and we have to all match. Otherwise, John Daniels is not going to do the deal, and I understand his reasoning in that as well. Pitching has to stay on par. The pitching for the Texas Rangers in the month of July has been horrific. Horrific. The Astros have been within 2.5 games of the AL West lead, and the Texas Rangers are going to have to figure it out. They've called up Joey Gallo today to play first base. You got Jurickson Profar playing shortstop. You got a lot of young kids out there showcasing their bats for the Texas Rangers, and what could be formidable showcasing for that of trade deadline deals for John Daniels and his organization. Reports is that the Nationals were in the mix for Aroldis Chapman right up until the end of the Yankees negotiations with the Cubs. Mike Rizzo, the general manager for the Washington Nationals, and his staff were still on the hunt for a relief ace that could anchor the back end of a bullpen. Upgrade over somebody like Jonathan Papelbon. The names that they're looking over are Andrew Miller, Wade Davis, and David Robertson are all on the radar for them as well. Reportedly through MLBTradeRumors.com, Andrew Cashner trade is gaining traction. It looks to be that the Blue Jays and Marlins are the two favorites to land him, with the Texas Rangers on the peripherals as a slight chances as to possibly being able to acquire him as well. However, as of 6:16 p.m., the Blues-Padres game was underway. Cashner was on the mound, so clearly, according to MLB Trade Rumors and their executives there, whom I have no affiliation with, but I get a lot of my baseball news from there. There's nothing imminent at this time. Allegedly, the Reds are picking up pace on the Jay Bruce trade talks. Jay Bruce has at least 4 teams, according to ESPN. Cincinnati is seeking top prospects in exchange for Bruce. You know, he's having an outstanding rebounding campaign at the plate. However, he's 29 years old. He's had knee surgery. You know, here's the issue that I have with this. Any team that trades for him better not give up their top prospects, because the truth of the matter is, you know, Jay Bruce is 29. He hasn't, you know, he's basically in his baseball hitter's prime. So with his baseball hitter prime being at the age 29, you know, he's still got a few years for the foreseeable future, even after knee surgery. But does a team like the Texas Rangers go after him? Does a team like the Houston Astros go after him? You know, honestly, no. The team that the Houston Astros, the player that the Houston Astros have been linked to is that of a former player of Carlos Beltran of the Mets. But we'll wait and see. It would be very interesting to see if they trade for him. Honestly, the Astros are out there, but the Astros have been quite quiet. But that doesn't mean that they're not getting close to pulling the trigger on something. Because as we've seen in years past, literally up until that last minute of that trade deadline, deals are going on. And typically that last day in trade deadline deals is the best day for trade deadline deals. You know, we're only a week out. You know, things are starting to pick up momentum. But, you know, as the weekend comes up, as Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and even once Monday hits, things are going to start picking up pace. And once things start picking up pace, what we're going to get as sports hosts, myself and the Big Do, is big sports stories as to major league deals and teams that have made deals up until that last minute. The Orioles designated Julio Bourbon, former Texas Ranger, designated him for assignment, reinstated Yoon Soo Kim from the 15-day disabled list. The club has reinstated right-hander Ubaldo Jimenez from the paternity list. I didn't know pitchers could have babies. I'm kidding. His wife did. As previously stated, the Rangers recalled Joey Gallo from AAA Round Rock and the option Jared Hoying back to AAA in his place. Gallo's 22. He's already made his major league debut for the Rangers last season, but struggled in the majors. He only posted a 2.04 batting average, 3.01, and 4.17 batting line. Strikeouts have long been an Achilles heel for him, and that's typically the problem with most power hitters, as I've discussed many times on this show, is a lot of times with power hitters, what you get is high strikeout rates because they're thinking home runs the whole time. But that proved to be especially true in last season's brief MLB tenure. However, this year in AAA, he's walking a little bit more and striking out less. This season, Gallo is hitting 246, 381, and 557 with 19 homers, 9 doubles, and 5 triples in 299 plate appearances with Round Rock. He'll probably be seeing time for Prince Fielder unless he's traded. And honestly, out of Jerkson Profar and Joey Gallo, who would I much rather have traded? Jerkson Profar. In my honest opinion, Joey Gallo is a power hitter with high upside, but and high strikeout rates. Do not get me wrong, but he's definitely somebody you want on the team that has sure power. He may have high strikeout rates, but I want to see him perform. And something tells me that Joey Gallo, could be that next Mark Teixeira for the Rangers organization. He could be the next Chris Crush Davis. Mitch Moreland's not that person. Joey Gallo could be. Jerickson Profar, through 2 shoulder surgeries, has been an Achilles heel. So, if they trade him, it wouldn't hurt me all that much. Texas Rangers designated Kyle Loesch for assignment, recalled Nick Martinez. He'll start tonight for the Texas Rangers. The game was at the start of the show, was currently in a rain delay. The 37-year-old Loesch made 2 starts for the Rangers after signing a major league deal. His numbers weren't very pretty. 13 runs, 15 hits, 5 walks, and 3 strikeouts in 9 1/3 innings against the Twins and the Angels. His minor league deal came with a base salary of $2 million, so he'll receive prorated version of that for his work with Texas, amounting to about $251,000. On top of that, Loesch struggled not only with his brief big league stint, but with AAA as well. He posted a 5.06 ERA in 10 starts with Round Rock. 6.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. That's not bad. 2.1 walks per 9 innings. 36.2% ground ball rate. He was always effective in his mid-30s, but, he's just hasn't had the ups and downs or the ups that he did back when he was that top-tier pitcher back 2 or 3 years ago. Any of y'all have sports questions, go ahead and shoot them to me. We've talked a little bit about the Dallas Cowboys tonight. We've talked NFL. We've talked NCAA football. We've talked Big 12 as much as I can without the Big Do. Typically, when the Big Do and I are here, the banter is really good, and 45 minutes turns into an hour and a half, turns into 2 hours, and it's very easy to do a show for 2 hours as well. But shoot your questions to me. If you're viewing right now on Facebook Live or Ustream at the time being, shoot your questions. I definitely want to. I'm going to look at the numbers for Alex Bregman, who is the young man the Astros called up. I feel like that's fair to my Astro fans as well. Give you a little bit about Alex Bregman here. If we go to Wikipedia, I'm going to go to Alex Bregman. We're just going to see, exactly. I don't know what he did in his debut last night. He's an infielder for the Houston Astros. Played college baseball for LSU. In 2010, as a sophomore in high school, at the age of 16, became the first high school player in U.S. Baseball Player of the Year award. 2011, as a junior, batted .678 while setting a New Mexico season record with 19 home runs. 3 years at college at LSU, Bregman was voted 2013 National Freshman of the Year by Baseball America, won the 2013 Brooks Wallace Award as the country's best college shortstop, and was a two-time All-American. From Albuquerque, New Mexico. Trying to catch some numbers here. If you're viewing the show and you can actually get them a little bit faster than me, shoot them to me here on Facebook Live. I definitely want to see how he performed last night with the Houston Astros. I do know that he just barely missed a home run or a grand slam in his debut last night for the Houston Astros. One game, he had 4 at-bats, no runs, no hits, no doubles, no triples, no home runs, no walks, no intentional walks, 2 strikeouts, has a 0 batting average. But I don't know exactly how he performed in the field. I don't know exactly how he performed, defensively. But if I'm not mistaken, that was one of the reasons why the Houston Astros called him up, was for his defensiveness. Not necessarily just his offensive numbers, but for his defensive prowess. So it's going to come down to a quick, we've got, today's the 26th. The MLB trade deadline is August 1st, and I believe it's at midnight, if I'm not mistaken, 11:59 Eastern time. So, we've got basically 5 days, 6 days for teams to start swinging deals in Major League Baseball. For your team to go out there and pick up that player that you want them to pick up, whether it be, Chris Sale, Jay Bruce, Andrew Miller, Andrew Kashner, Jake Odorizzi, Matt Moore, Drew Smiley, Wade Davis, Jurickson Profar, Joey Gallo, players like that. We literally have 5 days before the big deal happens. Who's going to pull the blockbuster trade this year? Last year it was the Texas Rangers. They had that blockbuster trade that landed them Cole Hamels and ultimately gave them the West title and the American League West division. So will the Texas Rangers pull the trigger on a deal this year? Will the Houston Astros pull a trade, a deal this year under the table that will land them Chris Sale and make them formidable for possibly becoming that AL West champion this year and defeating the Texas Rangers in maybe a 1-game playoff, or maybe just outright taking the Texas Rangers? There's still 9 games between the two teams. The Seattle Mariners are only 5.5, 6 games behind the Texas Rangers. The Texas Rangers continue to lose. The Houston Astros, Seattle Mariners continue to win. It could wind up the Houston Astros, Seattle Mariners. As I said, was going to be the tightest division in all of baseball, and it's living up to its dream. So, with y'all viewing out there on Facebook Live and Ustream, what are your thoughts? What do you think? Who's your favorite Major League team? You can comment. I'll give you a little bit of time to comment in the comment section. Who's your favorite Major League team? Who would you like to see them acquire? And Who's your least favorite MLB team? And who do you hope that they don't acquire? And while y'all are thinking about that, I will jump on over and do the Big 12 or Big 12, the Big 8 player of the week this week for the University of Oklahoma. And that Big 8 player of the week this week is Alvin Lee Adams, who was a center power forward from the University of Oklahoma. He attended the University of Oklahoma from 1972 to 1975. Went to Putnam City High School out of Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. He was born in Lawrence, Kansas. So for my friend and co-host, The Big Do, there you have it. Alvin Adams, a center power forward. He was the first round fourth overall pick by the Phoenix Suns in 1975. Playing career was from 75 to 88. Was an NBA All-Star in 1976. Won Rookie of the Year in 76. All Rookie First Team 1976. Phoenix Suns Ring of Honor. His number 33 is retired by the Phoenix Suns. Third Team All-American NABC 1975. Big 8 Player of the Year in 1975. Three-time First Team All-Big 8 1973 to 1975. And his number 33 is also retired by the University of Oklahoma. Let's a little bit more research about him. After starting for the University of Oklahoma, the 6'9" power forward center was selected by the Phoenix Suns with the fourth pick in the first round of 1975 NBA draft. Adams was a rookie on the Suns team whose season included an improbable playoff run that took them all the way to the 1976 NBA Finals. In the same year, he was selected again at the All-Star game, won the NBA Rookie of the Year award, and All-American NBA Rookie team as well. That's Alvin Adams, center from the University of Oklahoma, Big 8 Player of the Week this week. Alvin Adams from the University of Oklahoma. I want to thank you for stopping by the Jimmy the K Sports Show with the Big Do. I know this week's show has been cut a little bit short, but to be quite honest with you, I can't really talk for 2 hours straight without a co-host. Like I said at the beginning of the show, it's a lot easier when the Big Do and I are together because the truth of the matter is it makes talking 2 hours a lot easier. I want to thank you, my fans, for stopping by here at Facebook Live and Ustream as well. Remember to follow us on Twitter. You can follow me at JimmyKersey1. You can follow him at The Big Do Show on Twitter as well. You can follow him at The Big Do Show on Instagram. You can like our Facebook page. Just go to facebook.com, search engine All About Sports Zone. Like that page. You can go to our website, www.screamerproduction.wix.com/All About Sports Zone. Be sure to stay tuned next Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time here on Facebook Live and Periscope. The Big Do will be doing his show from Periscope and Facebook Live as well, if I'm not mistaken. So if you are not following him, go to his personal website, which is Alvarez Durandu. Follow him, and you'll be able to watch his Facebook Live next week. Or if you have a Periscope, he's going to be doing it on Periscope, but you have to follow at Big Do Show on Periscope. And until next time, which will be August 17th when the Big Do and I are back together, and I'm not out of pocket anymore. I will see you August 17th, 7 p.m. Central Daylight Time. The Big Do and I sitting next to each other over there on the futon, discussing sports away. Until then, I'm Jimmy the K. This is the Jimmy the K Sports Show with the Big Do. Until next week on Periscope and Facebook Live. Until then, peace out.